And we have with us here in our studio Garima Mohan. She's a research fellow and political analyst at the Global Public Policy Institute. That's a non-profit think tank here in Berlin. Garima, thanks for joining us. So if you look at the situation here, who's more interested in trade ties? Is it Angela Merkel or Narendra Modi?
That's interesting. I think both of them are interested in trade ties, but because of different reasons. So there's been a lot of momentum in Germany-India relations of late, and the two countries have started talking on issues beyond trade, aligning their views on global issues. Now, for India, a main reason is Brexit. It is trying to look for new European partners after the UK's exit. For a long time, the UK was the main gateway for India to reach Europe, and now it's looking towards Germany and France. For Germany, on the other hand, it's trying to diversify its partnerships in Asia. For a long time, it had focused on China as the sole partner, but now it's understanding that it might be actually useful to build strong partnerships with countries like India, with which it shares common values, political systems, and a common view of the world.
But at the same time, Germany is also going to be talking about Indo-China relations. Why? What is Germany's role there?
Actually, it's not so much about Indo-China relations, but talking about concerns that both Germany and India have about a particular Chinese foreign policy scheme, the Belt and Road Initiative. So the Belt and Road Initiative is a massive foreign policy undertaking where China is making investments, opening up new markets and creating transport routes between Asia and Europe, both on land and on sea. But there's an increasing concern among a number of countries that these investments don't come without strings attached, whether it be increasing Chinese military presence along the trade routes or increasing political influence. Now, we've seen that political influence in Europe in the case of Hungary and Greece, but it's also visible in India's neighborhood with the constitutional crises in the Maldives and in Pakistan and other countries. So Germany and India have very similar concerns about the Belt and Road Initiative, that it hampers free trade, favors Chinese markets, Chinese companies, and most importantly, that it's creating financial dependencies in countries. It might lead to vulnerabilities in smaller countries. We've already seen that in the EU's neighborhood and in also India's neighborhood. So there are very clear geopolitical and economic concerns that Germany and India both would like to address.
Now, the EU wants a free trade agreement with India. Britain is now leaving the EU. Does that make this free trade agreement more likely?
The free trade agreement negotiations have been going on for a decade, and they've been stalled for a better part of the decade because of demands from both sides that have not been met. But I think with Brexit, there's an opportunity to kickstart these negotiations. A key demand India had was free movement or better movement of its professionals within the European Union. Now, because of stringent visa regulations, the UK was opposing that. With Brexit, the EU has possibility to offer more concessions to India, and Germany, in fact, is taking the lead in pushing forward the free trade agreement negotiations, because with the UK leaving, Germany stands to make more gains with the free trade agreement with India.
I have to also ask you about India's perspective on the Commonwealth, because we saw in that previous report that there's a lot of energy being put now into the Commonwealth. How realistic is that as an alternative for Britain?
I think it's going to be extremely difficult because the Commonwealth is not like a trade bloc. It's a group of very diverse countries which have diverse interests. So it's going to be really hard to negotiate trade agreements with every single one of them. Now, countries like India don't do fast-track trade agreements, so they're not going to give any preferential treatment to Britain. And for the other Commonwealth countries, I think mobility, access, better immigration control is going to be an issue that they're going to negotiate hard. And if Brexit Britain does not relent, that's going to be very difficult.
All right, Garima Mohan from the Global Public Policy Institute here in Berlin. Thanks so much for sharing your analysis with us.
Thank you.